to talk for a little bit about protein. So there's a couple of handouts I've given you, but we're going to go through a couple of slides here. One of the biggest questions that people ask when they're thinking about going vegetarian, or if you are vegetarian, a question often will get asked to you is, how do you get enough protein? Because the American viewpoint of protein is that you have to eat meat and dairy to get your protein. And if you want to be strong and like a bodybuilder, you need to eat lots of meat. But the truth is that there are some dangers in that form of protein, and you can get a lot of protein through plant foods. So we'll talk about that. But just a little overview first about protein. Protein is a chemical compound containing carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. These atoms are arranged into amino acids, which are linked into chains to form proteins. There are actually more than 50,000 different proteins in your body, but they're made up into 22 amino acids, and you've probably heard about those before. So you can think of it as like protein like a train, and your amino acids like the little cars on the train. And they say there's 8 essential amino acids. I won't try to pronounce all those names, but those are them. So why is protein important? Well, it's used in growth and development. It's used for actually all your body functions. It helps to build, maintain, and repair body tissue. So think about your hair, your nails, your skin, cartilage, mucosas. All those are formed from protein. And it helps with your hormones and stabilizing those. Enzymes, vitamin D, pretty essential, isn't it? It helps with muscle function. This is probably one of the things we think of most, is protein to have strong muscles. Lactation for mothers, and production of antibodies. And it plays an important role during times of emotional and physical stress. We all go through those, don't we? From time to time. So this can really help with that. And I didn't realize that endorphins are a form of protein, which help with pain relief as well as inducing pleasure and those sorts of things. Now let's talk about some of the plant forms of protein. So one of the handouts I gave you actually gives a long list of different forms of plant proteins. The number one biggest one is going to be in your legume family, your beans and legumes. So think things like tofu, which is soy. Tempeh is a fermented soy product. Edamame is the soy in its natural pod, if you can buy it in the pod or shelled. And then you have like lentils, and notice how many grams of protein are just in 1 cup of lentils. 18 grams of protein. That's a lot, isn't it? So what you ate tonight was a very high protein dinner, but there wasn't any meat in it, right? So you can have a lot of protein that's coming just by including beans primarily in your diet. But it also is found in other vegetables and such. Grains, one of the highest ones is quinoa. I've always thought that. Seitan, which is is the gluten flour that's found in wheat. And so sometimes you'll find it in wheat meat products, gluten products. That's what seitan is. But even whole grain bread, if you eat 2 slices of a whole grain bread, you're getting 8 grams of protein. Nuts and seeds are another great source. And then you have nutritional yeast flakes, spirulina, and different vegetables, 4 to 5 grams per cup. Things like potatoes and sweet potatoes and broccoli. You basically, if you eat a vegetarian diet, you're gonna get all the protein you need. So the recipe I made, which was the little secret ingredient brownies, had black beans and almond butter I put in it. So I just looked on here how many grams of protein. So this says on this can of black beans that a half a cup of black beans has 7 grams of protein. The recipe called for a cup, I believe it was. Maybe somebody check that for me. I think it was a cup. So that would be 14 grams of protein in that recipe. And then it called for 2 tablespoons of almond butter, which is 1 serving according to this, and that is 6 grams. So there were 20 grams of protein in that pan of brownies. So you didn't think of it as a protein food, but yeah, you can do your workout and think, oh, I need to have a shake, a protein shake, and eat a brownie afterwards and get all the protein I need. So that's kind of a fun. So how much protein do we need? The Institute of Medicine recommends the adult get a minimum of 0.8 grams of protein for every kilogram of body weight, or 8 grams for every 20 pounds. So this is just a suggestion, 55 grams for males, 45 grams for females per day. And as we've seen, you can easily get that just by eating some of these plant-based foods. There is on the back side of one of these handouts just a little simple menu for a day. And this is actually a lot of food. This comes out to 69 grams of protein, which would be more than we would actually need in a day. But you'd have to be very hungry to eat 1 cup of oatmeal, 1 ounce of walnuts, half a cup of blueberries, 1 banana, slice of toast, all for breakfast. You know, that's a big breakfast. Lunch, a cup of lentil stew, a half cup of steamed brown rice, and a cup and a half of kale salad with some toasted sesame seeds and a small sweet potato. That's a very large lunch. 24 grams of protein in that lunch. And then for dinner, a fruit smoothie with some soy milk and some bran crackers, 12 grams of protein. So you can see how easy it is to get enough protein very easily. Now, most Americans eat way too much protein. So here is like a vegetarian breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's coming out to 70 grams of protein. Here is an American breakfast with sausage and ham and whatever for breakfast, and a burger and fries and shake for lunch, and then a steak dinner for dinner, and it's coming out to 185 grams of protein. That's way more protein than you need. So what's the problem if you eat too much protein? Well, here's some of the health concerns. It will raise your cholesterol. Animal protein, which is linked to lymphoma, it's a form of cancer, of course. It will lower your immune system. It's often stored as fat, which makes weight loss difficult. Increased formation of toxic waste products, ammonia. Taxing on your liver and your kidneys. This is probably the biggest one. Your kidneys is what helps to process all that protein, so you can wear your kidneys out. Increased chronic heart disease, big problem in our country. Causes allergies, accelerated aging, can cause calcium loss resulting in kidney stones. We'll talk about that in a moment. And calcium loss can also lead to osteoporosis. Big concerns, right? So now you can make sense why we see a lot of these things happening in our society. It's because we eat too much protein. Animal protein and calcium loss, let's talk about that. Meat tends to be rich in amino acids that contain sulfur, such as methionine. Excess sulfur makes the blood more acidic. The body uses calcium from the bones to help neutralize this acidic load, thus causing a loss in bone tissue. So think about, they say, as women get older, you're more prone to osteoporosis. So watch how much protein you're eating, because excess protein can be pulling that calcium out of your bones to help neutralize all that extra acid. And here's an interesting chart where it shows if you're eating 48 grams of protein, which is a good amount, your calcium is fine. But notice how just doubling that drops it by 30 points. Or if you're eating more like an American diet in one day, down 70 points. So definitely can cause calcium loss. Animal food is generally high in amino acid lysine and low in arginine. I think those were 2 of those amino acids. The average plant food is much higher in arginine than lysine. Proteins. Arginine. Thank you. Is that how you say it? Yeah. Arginine. Proteins that are low in arginine have been observed to raise human cholesterol levels. See how everything is connected? And this is how God created our bodies. The Bible says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And when you see how the body systems all work together, you realize how important it is what we eat, because it's going to affect our health in a lot of different areas. So these bodybuilders, they look pretty fit, right? Guess what? They don't eat any meat to get healthy and strong like that. They're eating a plant-based diet and getting their protein from plant sources. And here's a Bible verse that tells us how God cares about us. He says, I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. That thou mayest love the Lord thy God, that thou mayest obey his voice, thou mayest cleave to him, for he is thy life and the length of thy days. From Deuteronomy 30:19 and 20. God gives us choices, doesn't he? He doesn't force you to eat a certain way. He's created beautiful foods for us to eat. Ones that grow in the soil that God originally gave in the Garden of Eden as man's diet. But he says you choose. You can eat things that will bless you or things that will curse you. But I would recommend you choose life, that it may be well with you and your children after you. So let's choose God's plan of eating, right? You will notice so many benefits from that. And that's why we do these classes, so that you can learn how to start eating more that way and go home with some good protein-rich recipes, right? So at this time, we're going to turn our attention to Marcy at the table, and she's going to show how to make, I think it was the macaroni, chili mac and cheese.
Chili mac and cheese.
Yeah.